Joining us right now, former TFC player, but now with Vaughan Azzurri of League1 Ontario, Chris Mannella. Chris, welcome, my friend.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for having me.
Hey, pleasure's all mine. Great to see you out there in action for Vaughan Azzurri. You have come back to League1 Ontario. Let's talk about it. You've signed on with Vaughan Azzurri. Obviously, you've played and spent most of your time with TFC. But let's talk about that transition first and then the game on Saturday. First, the transition.
Yeah, of course. When I finished with TFC, there was an opportunity for me to come and work with Carmen, and he brought me in to train and try to work with him for the summer. And I was interested. I was doing my thing, and he brought me in, and I was grateful for that. And then the game on Saturday, yeah, it was a tough one. Thought we could have gotten the 3 points. But we'll take the draw, and we just have to move forward from there.
A physical game on Saturday, Chris, a man's game. They brought it. You guys were flooding their end for a good 15 to 20 minutes in the second half. Just couldn't put one past the goalkeeper there, Eugene Alves. But you guys look like you're primed to make a long run. But Durham also is ready. Talk about the competition. You've played in USL. You've been in the show in MLS. But now you're back here at League1 Ontario. Have you seen an improvement? Have you seen a dip? Or do you like the direction that it's headed?
Yeah, I mean, compared to when I was first in League One with TFC Academy, it was the early years of the whole league, and it was good. But now just coming back into it and seeing it, even in my first game, you can tell that the level's grown immensely. The players seem to be more ready and just up for every single challenge, and it's a good thing because that's exactly what we need in Canada. And I'm just happy to see that the league is continuing to grow, and it's helping everyone in Canada, especially the young players, develop into what they become.
So, Chris, let's talk about it. Let's be honest. Obviously, the mindset is still a little bit, I would say a little bit cloudy from, the years that you spent with TFC. Now you're with Vaughan. Did head coach Carmen Asako sit down before the season started and talk to you to really make you focus at the job at hand, first and foremost, with Vaughan Azzurri? And then obviously thinking about getting back to the show, whether it's MLS or possibly the Canadian Premier League that will be kicking off in 2018.
Yeah, of course. Me and Carm have known each other for a long time, and I had the opportunity to talk to him and talk to him a little bit about what was happening with myself. And he just said as long as I kept working hard and doing all the things right, and even in training and staying focused on being the best I can possibly be, then obviously, yeah, I would love to be back in the MLS or wherever it may be. But, for now, I'm here, and I'm focused on winning and helping Vaughan win another championship.
How important is it, Chris, to play week in and week out, to get that test, to get that exam after you train all week long, instead of sitting on that bench where you know that you're rotting away and you're at the age that you need to play and you need to get better and better? How important is it now that you're going to get that opportunity week in and week out, you're going to play and you're going to get those minutes you need?
Yeah, of course. I mean, training is one thing, and you have to still work on your craft and training, but games is a different story. Games is where you test yourself. Games it shows where you show what you're made of and what you've been working towards all week. So it's very important. Games are completely different than training. It's a different beast. So just sitting on the bench is one thing, and actually getting the games in 90 minutes week in and week out is just so important for my development and every single person, every single player's development and trying to get better.
Chris, let's talk about it. Obviously, I came into your dressing room before the game kicked off. I went into Durham's. I've gone to each and every team this weekend that I could get to tell them the importance of this year. One League1 Ontario team will be playing in the Canadian Championship against Ottawa Fury, Edmonton, TFC, the Whitecaps, and the Impact. And then also, I did mention, and you know this, and most players know this by now, that we will have our own league in 2018, and how important it is to shine and display your talents, because there will be rosters available on all these squads all across Canada. How important is that, to have that carrot at the end there for you and your teammates?
I mean, yeah, it's massive. I mean, League One is under a big spotlight right now, especially, like you said, with the Canadian Premier League and also with the Canadian Championship spot up for grabs. So there's a lot to play for this year, especially both individually and on a team standpoint. So I think if the guys realize that there's many opportunities now arise for a lot of the players, and this is the year that you really have to push forward and literally be your best at all times, because you never know who's watching, and you really want to show your best at all times, because there are many opportunities to come.
Chris, I've watched you for the last 4 years, and I've watched you very closely. Your vision has never changed. You have wonderful vision of spreading the ball all around. But in your mind, in your honest heart of hearts, what part of the game do you need to work on to show people that they've made a mistake in letting you go to get back to the show, whether Canadian Premier League or MLS Europe, wherever? What do you need to work on right now with Vaughan in League One to really get in the top form that you can be at?
Yeah, I think for me, just playing at a faster pace, just consistently, whether it be in League One, whether it be in MLS. A lot of the time, especially when I was obviously with TFC, the pace of the game is a lot quicker. And I think if I just consistently play at a higher pace than everyone else, then I'll be fine in moving the ball and doing things like that. But as long as I keep working on the pace of the game and keeping the tempo up, I'm hoping to be my best again.
How important is it to still have that hunger, Chris, to still have that motivation, that passion to get up each and every day to say, hey, I have to prove people wrong. I have to do the best I can so I can get back to where I want to be. How important is it to have that motivation day in and day out and to really believe in yourself and make that challenge to you day in and day out to get where you want to get?
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, if it was all perfect for everyone, then it would be really easy. Making soccer to the top level would be very easy. But if you're not hungry and you don't love the game, then maybe you just take a step back and try not to work for it. But it's the most important thing. You have to love the game. You have to always want to be better, and you always have to want to prove people wrong that may not necessarily have seen things that you possibly can do. But ultimately, you just have to work hard and believe in yourself and constantly know that you're good enough to push forward and be where you want to be.
Chris, if there's two areas that I still feel young Canadian players lack in, and maybe you can give me your thoughts playing in USL, MLS, and early on in League1 Ontario versus our U.S. counterparts and Mexican counterparts, is I believe we're still not in the best shape possible as young Canadian players. Also, I believe the physical aspect of the game, especially a lot of our young Canadian players go to NCAA. Some of them are lucky enough to play in USL and MLS. I still feel that we lack that physical, component of the game that we need to compete with the Americans and the Mexicans.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation, but I think we're getting there. A lot of the players are doing their strength and conditioning programs, and especially with the young players I've seen that I've played with, and even coming through the TFC Academy ranks, especially that they're not physically weaker or physically less than any other nations. I've seen that development, especially in the last 5 years. So I think as it continues to grow, and especially in Canada, as we continue to push forward in the physical aspect, and I think we'll be okay. And I think I don't think we're too far behind, to be honest. I think it's just maybe the mentality of some sort of tactical awareness and stuff like that is probably the biggest thing. But I don't think physically is too much of a problem. But it's always good to be in top shape for no matter what it is, any match, any training session, no matter what it is.
And lastly, Chris, I still believe a player like yourself who likes to spread the ball on, who has great vision, also has to understand the other components of the game, defensive side of the game, chipping in offensively. You have to be well-rounded. You have to be a complete player. And that's what I believe that our young Canadian players really have to grasp in their head. Because I think a lot of times as young Canadian kids, they want to be the goal scorer or they want to be just the defender. And instead, I think they have to learn all aspects of the game to be well-rounded and ready, because you and I we've seen this in MLS, where whether it's Zavaleta or Hagelin or others, they've changed positions late in their career, late in their life, to different positions completely.
Of course, yeah. I mean, nowadays, if you're on that football pitch, you have to know what to do in every position, not just necessarily the position you're given by the head coach. You should know where other pieces of puzzle should be in order to win. And, like you said, Nick Hagelin and Eric, but especially Nick, he scored some big goals in the playoffs, and not necessarily known as a goal scorer, but, he's scoring goals off set pieces, which ultimately propelled TFC to a final. So I think in all aspects, you just have to know how to adapt to certain situations where you may not necessarily find yourself in 99 times out of 100, but that one time you do, you just sort of have to adapt and be good enough to take care of the ball in that situation.
Chris, I wish you nothing but success in League 1 Ontario at Vaughan and Surrey, but something tells me next year around this time we'll be talking about you playing for maybe a Calgary, an Edmonton, a Hamilton, Winnipeg, Halifax, who knows, one of these great cities in Canada. I really believe this is a league destined for players like you, like Q, who's coming up after this commercial break, Mo Babouli, so many others, so that you can shine and play in the country that we all love. Chris, thanks again, and keep your head up, and we'll see you out there all across Canada playing in League 1 Ontario, my friend.
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Joining us right now, a former TFC goalkeeper, Quillan Roberts, now with the Woodbridge Strikers. Q, welcome, my friend.
Hey, Anthony. How are you?
I'm very good. Really appreciate you making the time and joining us. Let's talk about it. You make your way to League 1 Ontario at the Woodbridge Strikers. How did this all come about?
To be very honest with you, the season ended with TFC and nothing was renegotiated, so we began looking for teams and ended up in Woodbridge.
So let's talk about it, Q. Obviously, there's a lot of motivation in you right now. There's a lot of, passionate desire to get back to the show, to prove people wrong. And obviously, with the new Canadian Premier League on the horizon, that's a spot I'm sure a guy like you and Chris would like to land or back up in the show in MLS. So your mindset obviously has to really focus at the job at hand like it was Saturday against Masters FA. Because if not, you could have a real tough go of it. How do you do that? How do you block things out from the past?
I feel like from a young age, especially playing goalkeeper, you have to kind of mature quickly and kind of get over things quickly, especially when you get scored on or you make a mistake. I feel like from a very young age, I've been able to get over things quickly and been able to take situations in stride. So I think that's helped me a lot, and getting over that TFC hump and finding a new team and getting a chance with them and getting the minutes that I need and hopefully using that as a push forward to the next level and to prove these people wrong and to try and get my name back out there and get back with the national team and all that kind of stuff. So it's a good opportunity, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Let's talk about how important it is for a young guy like you to get that test, to get that exam week in and week out, to get those 90 minutes under your belt, to build up that confidence like you did on Saturday night. How important is that instead of sitting on the bench and rotting away?
I mean, you can only learn so much from watching other keepers, so getting the training in and getting the games in is the most important, and playing is the top. So, just getting those games and getting those 90 minutes every week is going to be only beneficial to me in my career. So it's unbelievable, to try and get that opportunity in and get those games and those minutes to try and keep progressing and to push forward, as I said before.
Now let's talk about that first taste Saturday against Masters FA. I was there freezing my big tush off. You were there standing. Standing on your head. I was walking with about 10 minutes left in that first half, and as I'm walking, I'm watching, and the crowd was outstanding. They were fantastic all night long, and you're making save after save to keep your team in. But let's be honest, Q. Did you expect this type of competition, this type of work that you had to put in that first half the way you did Saturday night?
To be very honest with you, I didn't. I did expect it to be good competition, but I feel like I was a bit rusty coming into the game. I dropped a couple of things that I think normally I would have held on to and forced myself to make extra saves that I probably shouldn't have had to or wouldn't have had to if I was as sharp as I usually am. So I feel like with more training, with more games, I'll get that back and still have to pull off saves, but not make them harder on myself.
Q, obviously Woodbridge, Vaughan, Sigma, Oakville, the top teams have a target on their back, but you also have a target on your back and right in front of you, to be honest, because a lot of the players all over the league now look and say, hey, I got to get one by that goalie on Woodbridge, Q, because he played up in the show. Let me show him what I'm all about. How good is that for you also to be motivated and ready that some of these young whippersnappers there really want to get one by you?
I mean, it's good competition at the end of the day, and it just means more work for me, which means more time and more shots and more saves, hopefully. So at the end of the day, I'm just going to save as much as I can and hopefully keep my team in games and get 3 points out of every game and bring us to the championship and hopefully win the League 1 title and get a chance to play against some of the bigger teams.
Q, a lot of guys have come back to play to League 1 Ontario this year. Johnny Grant with Sigma, Chris Mannella with Vaughan Adzuri, yourself with Woodbridge. Many, many others have come from USL squads they were with last year to come here because they know on the horizon, as I spoke to you and your team in the locker room, and each team, I will do that this year, that there is 2 big challenges ahead. One, playing for the Canadian Championship against TFC, Whitecaps, Impact, Ottawa, and Edmonton. And the other, as I talked about, the Canadian Premier League in 2018 getting off the ground, where guys like you and others have an opportunity to pick up a professional salary and play in the country you love. Talk about these 2 challenges, these 2 carrots at the end of the stick for you and your teammates.
I mean, it's all that much more motivation for all of us, you know. I mean, for guys like me and Chris and guys who've been with MLS teams or other USL teams, you know, it's a great motivation to try and get back and prove them wrong at the end of the day, you know what I mean? So, and for the guys who haven't been there to prove that they can be there and they can fight and they can make a difference kind of thing. So, I mean, for all of us, it's exciting, it's motivational, and it's just more opportunities for us to prove ourselves.
Q, if you look back now, I still believe that your agility is unbelievable. You're like the elastic guy out there. I called Bill Hamid, who was on our show of DC United. He was on my show a couple times last year. The human elastic band. I would call you the junior human elastic band. You have that in you. But if there's something that you yourself can look back and say, what I need to work on this year and improve on for me to get back up there, what would it be?
I think most important is staying consistent and making those crucial saves week in, week out, and not putting my team in positions where they have to come back, but rather positions where we can move forward and succeed from. And I just want to be very honest with you, I just want to make everything simple out of the back. I just want to play my game and make my saves and help my team to do the very best that we can.
Q, the atmosphere Saturday, let's be honest, I don't think you expected that, playing in USL stadiums, playing in MLS. You come there, your first League 1 Ontario game, drums, booing, yelling, you name it. It was unbelievable. Talk about that atmosphere Saturday night.
The fans were great, to be very honest with you. We had a couple of Woodbridge fans come out as well, and they were just as loud as the other fans were, and they gave it right back to them for the whole 90 minutes. So it was a great atmosphere. The drums were going, the fans were screaming, and they were all out there in the cold, and it was actually really good.
You know, Q, you look back and you say to yourself, when I ask you this question, what more do Canadian young goalkeepers need to do to be at the same level as, let's say, some of the U.S. or Mexican counterparts? You've played in USL, you've been in MLS, you've been up to where some of the big guys have played. What, in your estimation, do you believe that maybe some of the younger guys coming up now, that you can talk to them or give them advice on, what do you think they need to work on?
Staying consistent, keeping the game simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't try and overplay. Just do the basics and do the basics well more than anything. You know what I mean? Saves will come. You don't have to make heroic saves to be noticed as a top goalkeeper. You just need to do the basics very, very well and very, very consistently.
You as a goalkeeper, when do you want to know that you're starting that game? 24 hours, 48 hours before? When do you want to know that you're starting?
As a goalkeeper, I think it's from day one you learn that even if you aren't starting or if you are, you have to be kind of mentally prepared and mentally switched on and ready to go in at any moment. So if I find out an hour before or 24 or 48 hours before, it doesn't really matter because I'm already preparing whether I know I'm starting or I know I'm going to be on the bench, because at any given moment in the warm-up or the first kick of the game, something could happen and I have to go in, or somebody else has to come in, and they have to be ready. They have to be prepared for that kind of situation. So being mentally switched on and mentally prepared the day before, the hours before the game, I think we're all kind of bred that way, and I feel like every goalkeeper kind of has that mentality.
Q, how hard is it for you as a young goalkeeper to really, concentrate on the next game that's coming up that's going to be played on turf or on grass? Because during the week, you might be practicing on grass, you might be practicing on turf. The bounce is different. The game, let's be honest, is much different. The mentality of doing things is different, I believe, on turf than it is on grass. Talk about, that dynamic of it all.
I mean, growing up in Canada, it's kind of what you're used to. You could practice on turf and end up playing on grass every week, or you could end up practicing on grass and playing on turf every week. So I think growing up in Canada has kind of helped me a little bit, whereas in the summertime we play on grass or whatnot. So I feel like that's not that big of an issue, but it still is something that is thought about and kind of do mentally prepare for that as well. Like before going to the game, like the day or two before, like I'll find out if it's grass, I'll find out if it's turf, and kind of look into the field and look into kind of what the kind of turf looks like or what the grass is like, and I'll prepare for that.
Hugh, just before we let you go, who's helped you get through this rough patch, this roller coaster young career of yours? Is there someone that, you can pick up the phone at midnight, at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, you know what, I'm struggling after this loss, or I'm struggling because I'm down on confidence, I haven't played. Who do you pick up and talk with? Is there a former goalkeeper, a family member, a friend? Who's helped you along this journey?
Family and friends are always there. There have been coaches that have helped me tremendously along the way, but I feel like I have to be my worst critic and my best friend at times, because at the end of the day, I make mistakes. I know what I did wrong. I know what I can fix. If I look back at it and I can't tell myself what I can fix, then I always have those people that I can reach out to and contact and ask what they think about the game and what they think that I did wrong or did well. And, goalkeepers are a tight-knit community, so friends forever and the GK union kind of thing. So I always have those people that I know I can reach out to, I know I can contact, and there's always the family and the friends that are there to kind of give me those kind words and the boost if I'm feeling down or after a bad game. They're kind of there to pick me back up. So it's a combination of myself and friends and family and coaching staff.
Q, it's great to take time on short notice. I wish you nothing but success with the Woodbridge Strikers, but I could hear it in your voice, and I believe in a year from now, as I said to Chris, as I said to Mo, as I said to Johnny Grant and so many others, the Canadian Premier League's coming, and I believe there'll be a spot for you on one of those rosters in one of those new franchises, so keep your head up. Keep working hard, and I'm sure you'll land on your feet at the show once again. We really appreciate you making time, and enjoy the season in League One, my friend.
Thanks, Anthony.